Welcome back to The Savvy Psychologist. I'm Dr. Ellen Hendrickson. If you didn't hear the news last week, I'll say it again. The Savvy Psychologist was chosen by iTunes editors as one of the best of 2014 podcasts. Look for it at itunes.com/bestpodcasts2014. You'll see me next to my new fabulous buddy, RuPaul. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support on social media. And don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss an episode in 2015. Rejection hurls a rock through the window of your confidence. You probably have a rejection horror story, working up the courage to ask out your crush, only to have him ask what your name is, or pouring your heart into a project, only to spot it in the boss's wastebasket. But you probably have a good rejection story too, the one where getting fired led to your dream job, or a breakup led you to find your life partner. These are the times when rejection is a blessing or a lesson in disguise. Of course, the proud king of rejection is blogger Jia Jiang. If you don't already know his addictive 100 Days of Rejection YouTube series, do yourself a favor and watch him try to get rejected by asking for a haircut from a pet groomer, dancing Gangnam Style on a security camera, asking to take a nap at a mattress store, and so much more. But you don't have to try to join a random stranger's Super Bowl party to practice the fine art of getting rejected. This week, here are 5 tips to help you take the sting out of rejection. Tip number 1. Think of rejection as a numbers game. A Gallup poll found that smokers have tried to quit an average of 3.6 times. And with each of those times, you figure out what works, what doesn't, and you learn a little more about yourself. So it is with rejection. With any goal, assume you have to rack up a certain number of rejections before you reach success. For instance, getting a new job might require hearing, "You're not quite what we're looking for," a few times. Finding a partner might require hearing, "Let's be friends," a few more times. Put another way, it's like climbing the rungs of a ladder. You have to climb a certain number of rungs before you reach the top. Without the climb, you're not going anywhere. Tip number 2. Remember that rejection keeps you real, which in turn makes you hot. One of my favorite studies is about the pratfall effect by the great psychologist Elliot Aronson. In this classic study from 1966, Aronson had study participants listen to a recording of potential quiz show contestants, who were actually Confederates for the experiment. One of the contestants is a competent guy. He answers most of the questions correctly, and to top it off, details his many achievements. The other guy's kind of a tool. He answers most of the questions wrong, and it becomes clear that he's pretty unimpressive in the rest of his life, too. The study participants are then asked, "Who do you find more attractive?" Now, remember this is just audio tape. They can't actually see the guy. And of course, everyone picks the competent guy. But then, the tape keeps playing. Participants hear a clattering sound, and one of the contestants says, "Oh no, I've spilled coffee all over my new suit." Then, participants are asked again, "Who do you find more attractive?" And here's the thing. When the doofus guy spills coffee on himself, his attractiveness goes down, just like we'd expect. But when the competent guy spills coffee on himself, his attractiveness actually goes up. So, assuming you're generally competent and likable, aka not a doofus, your imperfections only amplify your attractiveness. This is why self-deprecation is so charming. Now, let's tie this back to rejection. You probably have some run-of-the-mill rejection stories, but you probably also have some spectacular ones. Rather than thinking of rejections as something to hide away in the attic, take the best ones, polish them with some humor, and show them off. People will only think you're cuter for it. Tip number 3. Think of rejection as a practice in non-attachment. A number of the world's religions value non-attachment, framing the refusal to get caught up in desire and personal ambition as freedom from suffering. Indeed, striving for fame, money, things, or a certain relationship can make us miserable. That's not to say don't try, but don't get too attached to the outcome. Alexander Graham Bell isn't exactly a religious figure, but he summed it up pretty well when he said, "When one door closes, another opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door, we do not see the one which has opened for us." The lesson: don't fixate on your rejection. Tip number 4. If you're given constructive feedback, think of it as a free consult. Sometimes rejections are flat and rude. These, admittedly, are not particularly useful. But sometimes they contain nuggets of wisdom, or even a whole gold mine. a rejection plus constructive criticism can be much more useful than a superficial acceptance. And last, tip number 5. Remember, the lead up is the hard part. Often, it's not even the rejection that's so miserable, it's all the anxiety and uncertainty leading up to asking her out, the editor's decision, or the hiring manager's answer. Anticipatory anxiety always makes us picture the worst case scenario. Like when you finally gather the courage to tell your crush you'll go to the ends of the earth for her. Anticipatory anxiety has you convinced she'll tell you to stay there. By contrast, even getting the dreaded let's be friends might be a relief. At least the misery of the lead up is over. Whenever you put yourself out there, whether at work, in love, or say asking to make your own announcement on your next Southwest flight, you run the risk of rejection. You may get a no, but try anyway. You may just find yourself asking a plane load of people for a round of applause. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Dr. Ellen Hendrickson. That's it for this week. But next week, in honor of Christmas, we'll get into the spirit of giving and cover the benefits of altruism. In the meantime, references for the studies I mentioned, transcript of this and all episodes are always available at quickanddirtytips.com/savvy-psychologist. And our usual disclaimer, the Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and doesn't substitute for psychiatric care or psychotherapy by a licensed professional. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week for a happier, healthier mind.